Welcome to the Gamer Muscle Video's honest review of Dirt 5. As we always do with our honest reviews, I'm going to go through the best and worst aspects of this game. No holding back, maximum attack.
If you want a wheel to play your game, click on my link and you won't complain. Fanner Tech, fancy tech, feel your ride on a PS5, Xbox One, PC, PS4, Sega Saturn, Atari VCS, Intellivision, ColecoVision, Tennis for Two, Magnavox Odyssey.
Okay, maybe not those last ones, but if you want to support the channel and you need a force feedback wheel, check out our Fanatec affiliate link in the description. On with the video. Before we attack the specifics like Jack the Ripper on a rampage, I am going to give you an overview of this game for those of you that don't know what it's about. I don't know why you wouldn't. There's loads of videos on the internet, but let's say you don't. This is basically Codemasters' off-road version of Grid. Now don't start crying, because unlike the last Grid, this is actually a good game. And though many aspects of it are effectively an off-road grid game, the presentation is much better, the content delivery is much better, the pacing is much better, and weirdly, whilst playing it, you occasionally get some, or I did at least, some nostalgia vibes in the sort of Dreamcast, Sega Rally and MotorStorm direction, which was welcome, because those are also fantastic games. Fundamentally, at its core, this is an arcade off-road racer. So for the sake of this review, this week I have mostly been playing this game using a gamepad and chase cam. If you want to know what this is like with the steering wheel, bish bosh bash that subscribe button and bing bang bong that bell, so you're notified when our steering wheel Dirt 5 video goes live. The most important part of any driving game, arcade or simulator, is of course the handling. And the handling in Dirt 5 is a mixed bag. Now, at no point would I say the handling's bad. It's very accommodating. You have really good control over the vehicle, and at many points in time, it is really satisfying. But I would say you have to be a little bit preemptive with the driving, because the handling is a little bit sluggish. You can definitely tell they prioritised around making this accommodating and removing frustrating spins for drivers that don't have very good car control. But as a result, those of you that do have really good car control, you'll feel like you're a little bit, control's taken away from you. And that's even if you turn all assists off. So it would have been nice if they actually made it so they had a non-assist mode for the gamepad. Nicely though, the vehicles do actually handle and feel quite distinct in this game from vehicle to vehicle. Now, it's not necessarily the case that the vehicles line up to what you'd expect those vehicles to handle like. Sometimes some of the smaller vehicles are heavier and more sluggish than some of the larger vehicles, and vice versa. But they're all generally quite fun to drive, and the difference there means that it's actually quite nice when you buy and unlock different vehicles. You're not just getting something that's slightly slower, slightly faster. You actually do get something that's a nice, different tool to drive around the tracks with. Separate to the individual vehicles, what's really nice is that you do notice the different surfaces in this and how that affects the handling. Snow is way more understeery and slightly annoying to drive on, as well as the really thick mud. Ice is pure slip and slide, massive sideways drifting, amazing. The tarmac is super grippy and tight and maneuverable, and the gravel is somewhere in between. But it's just really nice when you're going through a stage and it changes as you're playing. You really do have to then approach the driving slightly different and adapt to that, which keeps you on your toes and keeps the racing more exciting and compelling. Bearing in mind this is with a gamepad, I'm going to give the handling in this 7 out of 10 tea bags. It would have got 9 if you could completely remove all the steering assists. And the cars were a little bit more snappy. That would be a 9, but it's not quite there. But it's still fun, so I've let it off. 7 tea bags you get. You guys are really shallow, so let's talk about the graphics. And I have to say, at times this looks absolutely amazing. Mostly because the particle effects in this are phenomenal. There's so much confetti, snow, dust, debris, leaves floating around, and also they collide with stuff as well, so it doesn't feel like they're just going through objects. And then you have all the like ground details and the tessellation of the road surface, so you can see all the little puddles with the water in them, and they deform when you drive over them. Truly next generation, pointless stuff that adds nothing to the gameplay, but it does, at the end of an event, make you feel like you've just got married to a race car. So, you know, that's something. I mean, I get, you know, the tracks are dynamic and the graphics do allow you to see that they've changed, and, you know, then you expect the handling to change from that. So it does do something for the gameplay, but it is very shallow. It's a very shallow thing. But, yeah, at times, you're just like, it's the amount of individual bitty objects and stuff is very spectacular. It's quite a new thing for this new generation of consoles and PCs that have been capable of doing this kind of thing for about 5+ years now. Separate to all those bitty details, the lighting in this can also be absolutely phenomenal at times. The general tone of the lighting is really weirdly natural. Not all the time, because I think they've kind of got the colour design a bit off, but occasionally it's absolutely bang on, and it's like, oh, I'm looking at a photograph here. It's bizarre how good the lighting is. I mean, you know, maybe that's the power of RTX, the RTX future, but it's very clear that there's all these shading, global illumination, RTX, all these bloody mental graphical technologies that this engine presents. So mathematically and visually, it's great, but then artistically, it seems like at times they've gone for a more stylized look, and other times it's kind of photoreal. It just comes across a bit mixed. I'm not saying it ever looks bad. I'm just saying from a snobby artistic point of view, it's a little bit inconsistent. Perhaps a good way to explain it is Forza Horizon 4, I think, is a little bit less advanced in terms of raw shading, lighting, reflections and everything than Dirt 5. But because it's consistent, it's kind of more photoreal in presentation. Same with Microsoft Flight Sim 2020, although actually that's probably on a par to the engine technologies in Dirt 5. But it's very consistent, whereas Dirt 5, sometimes stylized, sometimes photoreal, and it can change over the course of a single level. So maybe that's immersion break for some people. You know, when you're bombing through the countryside at 120+ miles an hour with all this crap going off all over the place, it doesn't really matter. All said and done, Dirt 5 definitely looks next gen. And one thing that I think is particularly worth pointing out that is really impressive from a let's just jump in and play a fun game perspective, even on PC, is that when you set the graphics to automatic and just let the game choose the settings, it does a really good job. It always runs smooth and it looks really, really great. So much so that even if you fiddle with the settings, you probably won't necessarily get something that looks better than what their algorithm choice thing does. Previously with games, you would always be better off fiddling with the settings, but I think we're actually getting to a point now where the game is better at making the game look better whilst maintaining a good frame rate than a totally anal graphics setting user. Bad news for me, because I get loads of views from graphics setting videos, so Codemasters put me out of business. But yeah, top notch on the graphics. How many tea bags? I'm going to give it 7.5, 7.5 tea bags. You can't half a tea bag. 7 tea bags with a green tea on the side. Now the single player in this is very simple, quite minimal, and you're fairly standard arcade racer in the sense that you do races to unlock more races, and by doing races you unlock cars, and you also get credits that allow you to then buy different cars and unlock stickers and what have you for those vehicles. That's pretty much that's pretty much it. Whilst you play through it, there's this sort of podcast going on in the background that acts as a kind of story. It's a little bit dude bro-ish, but it does tie things together, and it's not entirely obnoxious, though the jokes are generally super terrible. But there's a little bit of personality there, and it's a million times better than what you typically get. So I'm giving them a pass there. Also, you could just skip through those bits if you don't want to listen to it. So if you do find the Donut Media podcast stuff annoying rather than entertaining, it doesn't get in the way. So of all evils that they could have gone down, this is one of the least. But crucially, so let's be real here, Dirt 5 is never going to be as spectacular and as content-rich as something like Forza Horizon 4. It just can't compete with it. Well, I mean, it could do if Codemasters spent more money on the game development, but they're not going to. So it's not going to compete with that. And as a result, where it can compete is just being in a super lean, load up the game, I want to go racing. Bang, 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 I'm in the game, I'm driving, I'm racing, I'm having fun. Whereas, when, with Forza Horizon 4, I love it. It's probably one of my favourite arcade games of the last 5 years, arcade races. It's kind of a bit cumbersome, and getting into races and completing through it is, it's a little bit laborious. And especially if you wanted to then do stuff with your friends, like split screen, whereas with Dirt 5, it's very much like your sort of old school, going even all the way back to like your PlayStation 2, but more recently Xbox 360, or just your classic old school arcade racing game where it's like, say you've got a brother or a friend round and you're like, right, we want to do some racing. Dirt 5, jump in. There you go, split screen, we're going through the single player, we're racing each other, we're beating each other up, punch him in the face, he's got a nosebleed, the school thinks that your parents are abusing the children, your parents have to go to the police station. Your standard, proper, single player racing game. That's what it's all about, and it's nice to have that. And I think that's what's weird with this game. As I've been playing it, it feels old. It feels like many of what are the good aspects of older games have been put into this newer graphical context and new sort of the new platform, fast loading times and everything else, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, it's just really nice. Lean, to the point, jump in and race, no nonsense, which I really like. But I'm not going to be totally positive about it because that's not very British. I'm just going to increase the despair and cynicism a few notches. And I will say, they really missed an opportunity in terms of varying the single-player content more. Now, there are different events. You do have like the Gymkhana event. You do have the sort of more like traditional rally event, which is rally with other cars and you're racing and stuff. But I would have liked to have had more like elimination events or just one-off special things like there's footballs and you've got to hit them into goals or, I don't know, exploding barrels and you've got to get through this stage without hitting any of them, or it's an elimination with the barrels taking out the different drivers and you can knock them into them. I don't know, just silly, like totally mental, one-off kind of stuff that you had in some of the older Forza games like the car bowling. Just occasionally something like that to really split the gameplay up a bit and add a bit more spice to it. Now, in fairness, Codemasters have put enough locations into this, and the different weather and everything does actually keep it feeling relatively fresh and a lot less grindy than most, if not pretty much all, the more recent Codemasters games, where they always felt like they're just short-changing you on content. It's like, even when you bought the DLC, it's like, hang on a minute, I'm just grinding here, and it's stuff I've seen before. The stuff in this game feels new, fresh, and it doesn't feel like a grind because of that. So, it just would have been perfect. That little bit of spice just would have made it absolutely spot on as an arcade racer. It is worth saying, there's the Gymkhana playground mode where you can build your own tracks and stuff, and then effectively you end up with a Dirt 5 Trackmania type situation with infinite user-generated content, and obviously a lot of people enjoy building stuff as well, so that user creation thing. So it just gives you way more value from the game and stuff to waste your life with a driving title. So, you can't really complain. I think the single player is just enough there in terms of content for it to be good value for money. Now, I can't talk about single player without talking about the AI and the actual racing in this. I left it a bit late in this portion of the video, but for the most part, the AI is actually really enjoyable to race against. Really nicely, if they drive into you, it doesn't annoyingly spin you. They are quite aggressive with their attacking. They will make moves on you and they will block you and stuff, but not in a frustrating way. So they've done a really good job there. Unfortunately, there is definitely the classic... Well, it might not be unfortunate, but I mean, to me, it's a little bit annoying. There's the classic single-player rubber banding with the AI in that, you can absolutely blaze it, pull away, and somehow the field manages to stay rather close to you. So when you make that spin at the end of the race, the one mistake, you end up losing places despite the fact that you absolutely beasted it for the rest of the stage. So that can be frustrating, but it does always keep you on your toes. And, you know, it's an action arcade game. You're supposed to be on your toes all the time. And without it, maybe you would just pull away and never have any pressure. Also, now, with the review copy, we were warned that they are still balancing things. So, you know, hopefully this is addressed with the final version of the game. But as it is right now, there's definitely certain vehicles, certain types of vehicles and certain stages where the difficulty seems a bit over the place. So the ice stages are way harder to beat the AI than in your standard race. And in the point-to-point races, it's a lot easier to beat the AI than in the normal races again. So they say they're going to improve it and fix it. We shall see in the final version, but I can only talk about what I've got my hands on here with this review version. I will say, though, in fairness to them, even if it released with the difficulty as it is right now, there's no point in the game where I've got stuck and I can't progress. I've been playing everything on the hard difficulty setting, and I've still managed to get through everything without problems. So there's nothing game-breaking about this difficulty stuff as it is right now. So all in all, with the AI and the racing, I'd say it's pretty compelling. For me, I'm all about multiplayer racing. And obviously then you have the split screen aspect of this, so that just makes it so much better anyway. I wouldn't say the AI is mind-blowing and you're like, oh god, this is the best single-player race I've ever had, but it's enjoyable, it's fun, and it's not annoying, which is probably the most important thing when it comes to single-player racing. It has annoying moments, but I mean, it's racing. There's going to be annoying moments, but it's not consistently annoying. There's not one single thing in this that I noticed that was like, oh god, I don't want to play the game anymore. So, take the teabag box out the cupboard, and we're going to give the single-player content AI experience, the single-player experience, it's going to be 7 teabags again. 7. I mean, I kind of want to give it a half teabag, but I can't do that. I'm drawing a line in the sand. Whole teabags only. 7 teabags for the single-player experience. Not bad. Could be better, but pretty damn good still. The sound is a surprisingly impressive aspect of this game, but not in a way that you would normally expect. I mean, the cars sound nice, you know, there's nothing, they're not going to absolutely blow your nipples off, but they all sound different. They've got the different engines. It's, you know, the revs go up as you'd expect. You know when to gear shift from the sound and everything. The dirt sloshing around, the collisions, that sounds all good. Look, that's fine. But that's not what's really spectacular. What's awesome with this, and unfortunately I can't demonstrate it for copyright reasons. You will have noticed that all the music has been muted in this video. Thank you, music rights holders. You really make the world a better place. Is the way they've done the game music. First of all, they've actually licensed a really good broad range of music to this. Mostly pop songs, but songs that all just fit in with this title and the nature of this title. Not all music that I'd normally choose to listen to, but it works with this game and it adds to the enjoyment of playing it, so that's fine. But what's really cool is how the audio operates in the... when it's playing in the menu and then you go into the game, it goes from being non-diegetic sound to diegetic sound, i.e. it goes from being you're listening to music that's playing as if it's a soundtrack to it's music coming from the environment, and as you drive past the booth and stuff, you hear it coming from the speakers with the distortion and everything. It's amazing. It's really good, and it works so well to sort of bring you into the game and make it feel like I'm in an event now I'm in the menus. And also the way it chops from music track to music track really helps add a lot of variety and really helps with the pacing of the game. I mean, this seems like a weird thing to really draw attention to because it is literally just the game's bloody music. But it really is novel and really does have a massive impact in the enjoyment of the title. Whilst you're playing this, you really need to do yourself a favour and just play this game with some decent speakers or nice headphones whilst you're playing, because the audio experience of this is just highly entertaining. So you know what? I'm going to give this game 9 teabags for audio. Unbelievable. And it's mostly for a next-gen gimmick. But that 9 teabags, it's said, it's done. It is now written in the Holy Book of Muscle. 9 teabags for Dirt 5's audio. Good job, Cody's. With this obviously being one of the few games that's actually going to be available to play with the new consoles coming out, the next generation, Engage, you know, I thought it's worth having a little bit here saying what's next gen about this. Now, it's also obviously releasing on the current generation consoles, but if you do buy it on the current generation consoles, if you then upgrade your moldy potato for a shiny potato, you get a free upgrade with this game, which is awesome. I really like that they're doing that. Obviously on PC's the always generation, but you know, if you're playing this on the next gen consoles or on PC with a fast graphics card, there are aspects of this that really do feel next gen. So the biggest one is that loading times are really good with this. Everything just loads super snappy. Menu to into the game, it's like, you know, there's no waiting around. Surprisingly, the split screen works super well and really seamlessly, and I'd say that's largely to do with the automatic optimization of the game, which I think is a sort of, feels like a very next-gen-y thing. And then the graphics are obviously the thing to really call attention to, and that really does make it feel next-gen, is the lighting, the shading, and the tessellation. Just the amount of objects on screen makes it really feel like something different to previous Codemasters games and arcade races. So if you've got a fast PC or one of the new games consoles, you will really enjoy the additional pop and fidelity that this game brings. The gameplay, though, really doesn't feel next-gen at all. This feels like a sort of Xbox 360, PlayStation 2 classic arcade racer. You know, it really is an old-school type racing game, but in a next-gen polished package. And that was the next-gen report. Final thoughts and conclusions. I have to say, I think this is a really nice off-road arcade racing game. Now, if you were to go into this thinking, oh, this is going to have some new gameplay in it that I've never seen before and it's going to be super novel and interesting in that regard, well, no, you'd be massively disappointed. This is literally the McDonald's hamburger, the Big Mac of racing titles. You don't go to McDonald's expecting a gourmet burger or like, you know, like a steak or something, or a Heston Blumenthal weirdo creation. You go in there because you hate yourself and you just want to shove some sugar and fat down your throat, and sometimes that's quite enjoyable. Given how bad McDonald's is, that's a little bit harsh on this game. I would say this game is better than a Big Mac. And to be honest, Big Macs are pretty damn small these days. It's a crime. So, if you're looking for a generic arcade racer that's fun to play, looks nice, makes your next-gen console sing a little bit, and maybe you've got some family that you want to have an argument with, playing this in split screen, absolutely top-notch. If you're looking for a title that really titillates you with new, exciting gameplay, then no, this will probably let you down. Right, so our final score, and you know what? I'm changing things now for the future of games reviews because it's rubbish. People give these things numbers and everything. It doesn't mean anything. All that matters with a game is it fun or is it not fun? So my rating for this game is fun. Dirt 5 is fun. There you go. You've reached the end, not of your life, but of this video. Mind you, after watching that, it probably does feel like the end of your life. Either way, if you haven't yet, you know what you can do. You can click that like button and subscribe. Also, we have loads of videos. I mean, look at all those videos on the channel, on the playlist. Driving sims, flight sims, CSGO played with the steering wheel. What more could you want? Best YouTube channel on the internet. Well, until the next one, thanks for watching. Happy tea drinking. And goodbye.